Welcome to Content with Character, the weekly podcast that'll give you the momentum you need to create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. I'm your host, content copywriter Emily Aborn, and I'm all about unconventional marketing approaches. I believe in your big ideas, and I'm excited to help you share them in a way that's distinctly you. Hello to you, and welcome back to the Content with Character podcast. I know that I announce what the name of the show is every single time, and I don't need to do that because the music just said it. Your podcast player says it, but whatever. It's fun to say. Content with character, content with character, content with character. Try it. You will see what I mean. Anyway, lucky for you, fun is the name of the game because we are going to be scratching our heads together and answering a listener question today. Can content creation really be fun? We're going to get into why we create content in the first place, why it's not always fun, how to make it more fun, and some questions to ask yourself to kind of re-spark the flame when it starts to die out. And as per usual, before we just dive straight into the topic, I do want to introduce myself. Now you know what the show's name is, but I want to tell you about me and also a little bit of what I like to do for fun in my life. So if you have not been introduced to me, I'm Emily Aborn. I'm a content copywriter, which means I write a lot of copy, a lot of it for websites and a lot of content for blogs and other marketing materials for small businesses who are really looking to make a difference, make an impact in the world. And while I do all this, I have a whole lot of fun and I help my clients to have a lot of fun too. I know you're like, how can writing website copy be fun? But I have fun. I try to make it fun and I'm getting really clearer and clearer every day on what sets me apart as a copywriter, what makes me different, and also who I like to work with. And one thing that I know for sure is I love working with people who are open to having a little bit of fun with their copy, pushing the boundaries ever so slightly and adding in their personality. So yes, I do work for fun. That is fun to me. But also I love reading. I love listening to podcasts. I love hiking, big fan of hiking. I enjoy hanging out with my friends and my family and game nights with my husband and being at the ocean, especially when the beach is not infiltrated by other humans. I like doing more things for fun, but I'll just stop there. And surprisingly, or perhaps not surprisingly, I also have a lot of fun creating content, which you can probably tell by the sound of my voice if you're listening to this podcast. I love creating content both for myself and also for others. So I wanted to start out this episode by telling you a couple things that I love about content creation. And then we'll get into how it applies to you and that listener question that really kicked off this entire topic. I'm going to take you all the places and we are going to solve this issue of what to do when content creation is not fun. So here's what I love about content, okay? And we will define it in a minute, so hang tight on that. I love that content lets you, the person creating it, learn and grow. So as you create content, you start to get a really clear understanding of what you think, how you feel, and you also learn a ton of cool stuff along the way in creating. I also love, so it gives you an opportunity as a creator to learn and grow. Secondly, I love that you get to share your ideas, your thoughts, your insights, your knowledge, helpful information, also just fun stuff like photos of what you had for lunch. You get to share that with others. And in doing so, it creates a connection, right? Like it provides a little spark of sunshine. Maybe it helps somebody out in life. So it really is kind of a bridge between you and the person on the other side. And I love that about it. And then third, I love that content creating something gives your creativity a job. So it's not just bottled up inside you, like me expressing my words on this podcast. I'm really giving my creativity a job. I also love that it is just like this endless landscape, never ending possibility, right? So that's what I love about content creation. But there are for sure some unfun parts. It is most certainly, especially when you're using it in your business, when you're using it to increase your visibility or to increase your marketing efforts, right? It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And it also, I will say this, not all content is created equal for different people. It's not all created equal in the first place, but it's not created equal for you. Like, not everything that you think you need to do is the highest and best use of your time to be sitting around and working on for your business. So that's kind of our little foundational layer here. Let's bring in the listener question. TC Burr. Hello, TC. I was a guest recently on TC's show, Yet, which I will include a link in the show notes if it has aired by the time this episode has. Otherwise, I will let you know when it airs and I'll make sure I include a link. But the best way to describe TC's show, Yet, it's like, you know how we all sit around saying we'll get to something we want to do someday? You know, whether it be like writing a book or learning Spanish or skydiving, that's something on my list, taking an actual day off and not having any plan in place. No matter what's on your list that you want to do someday, whether it's small or large, there's a lot of stuff we keep kicking down the road because we're not ready, quote unquote, yet. Or it's not time, quote unquote, yet. And TC's podcast, this is what I love about his podcast. He brings on people who are done waiting, or they're like in the middle of the mess and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I just knew I need to stop saying I'm not ready yet. It's very, very inspiring. And I will say this, TC is like a newer podcaster and he is such a pro. He is so good as a host and also a solo caster. Clearly knows what he's doing. Very, very good show. Highly recommend. So I'll make sure the link to the podcast itself is in the show notes now. And then our interview, when it airs, or if it's aired, it will be in the show notes as well. So check out the show notes. So anyway, TC and I were setting up a date for our conversation, and he sent me interview prep, which I have to say, that is my love language, preparation. There is nothing better than preparation, unless, of course, it's for your next colonoscopy. But anyway, here is what TC sent me as a piece of the prep. He says, I love your intro of content with character. Create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. As somebody who has recently diverged from a more traditional path to pursuing creative and entrepreneurial things, I've found the process of marketing myself to be exhausting and frustrating. I'd love to talk generally about your approach to visibility and marketing and how it can be fun. So on TC's podcast, we talk about the visibility and marketing in a general sense. And I thought to myself, well, on my podcast, I want to talk about the content piece of it. Like, can content creation really be fun? TC asked such a great question, and I bet you're all so happy that he did because you were probably wondering too. Like, how can we approach all of this stuff so it is a little bit more fun versus just exhausting and frustrating? So I think that what we need to do is start with what I believe is a very, very fundamental question, and that is why? Why are you doing this in the first place? Why are you creating content? Why do you care? So this may actually extend to, why am I marketing my business in the first place? Why am I trying to increase my visibility in the first place? Why do I care? I go back to this question so much for myself. Like, what am I doing and do I really need to be doing it? Whether it be marketing or creating content or increasing visibility, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter what it is in my business. What am I doing? Do I really need to be doing it? Because I'll say this, content for content's sake, marketing for marketing's sake, visibility for visibility's sake, that is not what we are over here to do. So I thought that because it's tossed around often enough, we should define content. Like, what is content anyway? It is defined as the subject or topics covered in a given area. Meaning this could be the content of a book, the content of a box, the content of a document. In business, we refer to content to mean this, that, and the other thing. And typically we are using it in kind of like a marketing setting. So I'll also say this, we put a whole lot of weight on whatever creating content means in our businesses. So to break it down, like some ideas of what that might look like for you, it might be a podcast. It might be a blog. It might be social media. It might be a website. It might be email. It might be video. It might be something else entirely. But let's break it down into a little bit more of a meaningful way with each of those. So that podcast, that is the one you really are dying to share. Or maybe it is that conversation that you really, really want to have with somebody, or the message that you are so excited about because it keeps you up at night. That is content, okay? A blog, it's not just a blog. It has the possibility to open somebody up to a new perspective or insight. It shows them how to do a thing. It gives them hope. It challenges them. It's not just a blog. Social media, it's not just social media content. It's connecting, engaging. It's having fun with people. It's informing, educating, sometimes promoting, right? Website content, quote unquote. It actually tells people who you are, what you stand for, what you do, who they are. And I want to highlight that too, because sometimes I think we forget that content is just as much the content of who they are as much as the content of who we are. It's just as much their story as it is our story. Okay, let's move to email content. So in email content, you get a chance to connect, tell more lengthy stories, share what's on your mind, stay top of mind. In video, you're showing your face, you're walking through steps, you're connecting in a deeper way, you're having fun, hopefully. Expressing yourself, being silly, showing behind the scenes, getting creative. So do you see what I mean? It's not just content. It's actually a really, really big opportunity to connect with the person on the other side, to share your message, to educate, have fun, and express yourself. So my next question for you is, out of all those content creation options, which ones do you actually enjoy? Because you don't have to do them all. Which ones do you hate? Which ones do you loathe? Does your business actually need this? Does it need all of them? Probably not. Most of us do not need to be in all the places all the time. We just need some sort of presence somewhere. And I would encourage you to find that some sort of presence somewhere in the places that actually make you feel good. Even the word presence, like I have a presence, it kind of makes it sound shisty and weird, and I know that. But what I mean is most of us are going to want some place that we connect with people. We're going to want some place where people can learn about us and also learn about like how we can help them, right? So a couple little reminders on this. When you're really thinking about the big picture of it in your business, content is not a one-way street. And I think this is one thing I see very, very often. People think it's just putting their message out there. It's not a one-way street. You have to see the person on the other side. It is a bridge. It is a two-way street. Secondly, you really don't want to be putting all of your eggs in the basket of content, and especially digital marketing. Like that is not the only way to market your business, okay? And it's not a set it and forget it and like hope my business takes off. There are so many other pieces of marketing that are fun and we let go kind of by the wayside with all of this emphasis on just digital marketing and building our digital presence and our digital brand. But you also have to build relationships, collaborate, have a really cohesive message, and also be really cohesive in who you are when you show up. Have great customer service. I say this all the time. And then also deliver a product or service that, people actually want to buy. So the list goes on. But I think that a lot of people kind of think that just creating more content is the answer. And it's just simply not the answer. And that's why you have to really start with like, why? Why am I doing this in the first place? Because more is not better. It is just more. So then after you kind of answer that why for yourself and you get really, really clear on it, then ask yourself, what do you actually enjoy? And then which ones do you really, really loathe? So if there's something you really, really hate, does your business actually need you to do that? So that is something to think about. Okay, and then I kind of got to thinking about the things I hate about content creation or quote unquote marketing my business. And it tends to happen for me when I feel overcommitted and I'm kind of on this like endless hamster wheel of whatever the thing is. Maybe it's content creation, maybe it's marketing myself, but where I just feel like I have said yes and subscribed to too many different things. Maybe it's different schools of thought or different ways of doing things, or maybe it's actual tangible things. Like I've said yes to too many networking events or too many podcast interviews or whatever the thing is, or I've decided I'm going to create too many podcast episodes or blogs. So when I feel overcommitted, that's when I really start to hate it. Like I'm like, this is not fun anymore. It's just too much. So if that is you, and you're in that boat, I would encourage you to kind of look through the list of everything you've decided to do in your marketing and your content creation and narrow it down a little bit to the things that you really enjoy doing. It's okay to pick the platforms you really, really like. It's okay to focus on the mediums you really like sharing on. And also that will help you to be more consistent in what you're doing. And I'll briefly just use myself as an example of what I do on a regular, consistent basis. I am not suggesting you do this. I'm going to show you what a cadence looks like that I've set and then kind of walk you through how to look at your own. So in my podcast, you hear this. I do it weekly and I love it. And nothing else in my business content creation brings me more joy. So it's just like actually fun for me. And then LinkedIn, nope, I don't love it. I like creating articles over there. That's nice. I will use the messaging feature there and I do comment on other people's posts. But as far as like posting on there, doesn't bring me joy. Facebook, love the groups. Don't really like creating content for Facebook. Pretty much never do it. I'm starting to really actually just like unlove Facebook in general, but for the most part, the groups are fine. Instagram, don't hate it, but I primarily use the content creation piece of Instagram as it relates to sharing to my stories. It's not even actually usually relevant to my business. It's just more of my personal expression tool or my like little creativity engine, right? I do create some business related content for my feed, but I'll tell you this, it's not that exciting for me. And I think it's because I haven't really jumped on to being able to do reels and things like that. And it's just like, okay, this person is boring, which is fine. So I don't really do it as often as I should as a result. Okay. Substack. Here's a fun one. I do write a weekly personal Substack article. I'm actually conducting a number of personal life experiments, 104 experiments. And so I write a weekly story about a different experiment I did and how it went. This is everything from friendship experiments to trying new foods. I love this as it is technically content creation, but I don't call it content creation. I mean, it's not for my business. It's just for personal enjoyment. So I just call it writing, but never say never, I guess. It could someday be a part of my business, but I do that on a weekly basis. I also send an email once a week. This used to be a 10 out of 10 favorite activity for me. It's gone down to like a 7 out of 10. So that is something to consider. Like, when we're looking at why, is there something that maybe that it was fun for us at first, and now that excitement level has gone down a bit, and we can look at like, all right, is there a way I can actually reinvigorate the energy in this thing? So I'll have to do some thinking around my email and think about why it's gone from a 10 to a 7. Blogging, I'll tell you what, I rarely blog. I usually do a correlative blog with this episode, which I just call the expanded show notes, call it a day. Blogging is, however, very valuable if you are going to be regularly sharing your blog in other ways, meaning you repurpose it, you drive people to read it, you do quality SEO research for it. I have a lot of blogs on my website, which are very, very helpful, useful blogs, and they do quite a bit for me traffic-wise because of the SEO behind them. So if you blog it, they will come. Yes, if you tell them how to get there. And sometimes that comes from guiding people to it with promoting it in other ways. And sometimes that comes through SEO. So those are the things. That is what I do on a regular basis. And then, of course, there's other things I would put into this like quote unquote visibility or marketing bucket. like guesting on people's shows, having one-to-one conversations with people, writing articles for various publications, speaking, offering workshops. Like this is all forms of marketing and content creation. And I share all that to say there are tons of options out there. It is a lot. And you don't have to do all of that. You actually might do way more than that, right? Like we're all in a different place in our cadence, in how many things we are doing for our marketing and for our visibility, but there are so many options, and I just like tapped on a few. I mean, that's not even all of them. There's also Reels and Threads and TikTok and whatever else the cool kids are doing for their social media these days. I don't know. So here's what I would do. I would go through all of the things you are doing marketing, visibility, and content-wise in your business and rank them 1 out of 10. 1 being I cannot stand doing this thing, and 10 being I absolutely love doing this thing. Focus on the things that are a 10 and you will be able to do them more consistently. And then when it comes to the rest of the things, don't let them just keep on sitting there draining your energy if they don't need to be there. Get rid of them. Do what you have to do and don't put so much weight or effort on those other things, those things that you don't have to do and maybe you don't like to do. So going back to the beginning, I would just really start reflecting on what you love about content creation. What do you love about marketing? And I'm talking about like the big picture stuff. Like what is the things that make you grateful in being able to share in the first place? So this is kind of like your big why. Like you'll probably have to actually go back to like why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. So here's some examples for you. Do you like that it allows you to connect and create community in your business? Do you like that it lets you learn about other people, maybe gain insight from the people that you're helping? Do you like that it lets you share your thoughts and ideas or tell your stories? Or maybe you love that it's a collaboration tool with other people. Maybe you love that it lets you express yourself and your personality or give information, knowledge, tips, resources. So what do you like about it? Why do you feel like it's so important to you and you want to do it? Then you focus on the areas that fill those loves, right? So if you love collaborating with other people, being a host of a podcast and having guests on, or guest podcasting is a great fit for you. If you love sharing your thoughts and ideas, maybe you can start letting some of those out a little bit more on your Instagram account or on your Facebook. So ask yourself what you really like about it. Why do you feel like it is so important for you to do it? And that will help, I think, restore some of the love and some of the joy in doing it. And if you really hate something, like if it is really just not lighting you up and you despise it, I want you to give yourself permission to just let it go. I have an episode on that coming up soon, but take time to figure out what you really did like about it, if anything, from the get-go. And then maybe you find another platform or tool or outlet that gives you those same rewards, but it doesn't have the pieces that you don't like, okay? So for example, let's use a podcast. Let's say you loved a podcast when you first started it, but it's starting to drain you, uninspire you, de-inspire you, depress you. But you love that the podcast is a community builder, a connector, a collaboration tool. You love sharing your thoughts and ideas and telling stories and expressing yourself. You don't have to have a podcast. You can find a way to capture all of those things you love, reap the rewards of all the parts of it that you loved without having to have a podcast. You could speak. You could guest on other people's podcasts. You could do workshops. You could do video. If you love writing, but you're writing your blog feels like, having a root canal, see where else you can channel that love for writing by using another medium. Maybe you can submit articles to other people. Maybe you can kind of like focus your writing on social media. If you like running a Facebook group, but you feel like you're all by your lonesome and doing it by yourself, that is where you could bring in maybe a second group leader or a collaborator, or maybe you even reimagine it entirely into something else. So there are lots and lots of ways to rechannel what you like about a certain type of marketing or a certain type of content creation, even when it's starting to kind of go stale on you. And if you really feel like, okay, this is just, I have to do this thing, or maybe I'm not quite ready to let it go yet, or maybe it's just all painful, you hate it all, you hate everything content creation and marketing, it all sucks. If that is your story, let me ask you this. Can you make it slightly, and let's just say 1% better? Can you make it slightly more fun for yourself? So here are some ideas I had. I just had 4. Number 1, block your time and batch your time. So take the painful parts. I will say, getting this podcast into the places it needs to be, so on the podcast directory and also up on my website, it's not my favorite part. So I block my time and I task batch to kind of get me through the painful parts, and it makes the fun parts like this actually more fun. The second thing is to come up with rituals and routines. And that might be you put on the right music, you make your space cozy, you do it on a certain day of the week versus just trying to cram it in the morning. So you really do set up the space for yourself to kind of focus on content creation or on these tasks that you don't like to do. Get a little silly, get a little quirky, be goofy, loosen up. Don't take it all so seriously, and you are going to have way, way, way more fun. And then my 4th idea, and I do this for myself, I love this, is give yourself little rewards. Maybe it's a piece of chocolate. Maybe it's that you reward yourself by laying on your deck in the sunshine with a good book. Maybe it's listening to that podcast that's just for fun and not for business. So give yourself little rewards once you kind of take those little steps towards the goals that you have. And my last thought, I just wanted to leave you with this, is no matter what you're creating, no matter what you're sharing about marketing, no matter how you're growing your business, make sure you're giving things time. Sometimes the reason that we feel drained, exhausted, frustrated, it's because we're not seeing quote unquote results. And I can tell you, being 6 years into this business, a decade into entrepreneurship, it takes a long time. It takes longer than we think. It takes a long time for things to land, stick, take off in the first place. And it always takes longer than we want. Longer than our passion is going to last, which is why you need to tap into resilience and consistency during those times and keep on sticking with it. Now, obviously, there are going to be instances where you maybe have already given something enough time and it's really just not sticking. And in that case, I would say let it go. Or work with somebody like me in a strategy session to kind of review everything with you. There are a lot of different ways to bring in extra eyes, and they can help you know if you're on the right track or if you need to kind of change things up. But truly, you do need to give things a lot more time and patience and effort, and then we are led to believe there is no magic pill. Most of us are not going to go viral. Not trying to be Debbie Downer here, just trying to be realistic so you can set realistic expectations for yourself. The online world is kind of full of these non-reality, mile-high apple pie dream in the sky, and in most cases, they're just trying to sell you something as part of their marketing and content strategies. So anywho, there are no quick solutions. There are no overnight results. It's a long game. So be nice to yourself and to your content creation process, and in your marketing and visibility. Lighten up a little bit and have fun. And with that, I want to wrap up, but I'm going to leave you with just a couple of reflection questions. Take what you want, leave the rest, okay? First one is, what are you creating in the first place and why? Is it too much? Is it lighting you up? How can you connect back to the big picture in what you're doing, the heartbeat of what you do, the main message? Why is this so important for you to create content and to share? And also, let's add in there, do you like what you're actually marketing and sharing and offering? Do you want to be showing up and sharing in this way so that you can keep on growing this business that you have created, the one that you are building? So if so, that's all marketing is. It's just letting them know why you care so much about your business, why they matter so much, how you can help them. You're just declaring it from the rooftops what matters most. And it can feel a little bit more exciting to do that. So I hope that this helps, even just a little smidge. If you're hitting a wall or in a funk or in a jam, insert your cliche of choice here. I would love to sit down with you in a strategy session and brainstorm specific personalized content creation ideas or structure or strategy or planning. Maybe look at what you need to keep and what you need to let go of. Whatever you kind of are stuck on, I got you. And I also promise that we will make it as fun as possible. That's it for this week. And next week, we're going to get into a topic I kind of queued up in the beginning of the episode, which is how to tell your origin story, your why, if you will, your why you started in the first place, what made you the person to do what you're doing now. And I can't wait. So I will chat with you then. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Content with Character. If you loved the episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate, review, and share it with someone else you know it could help. For more content and visibility tips, visit my blog at emilyaborn.com and be sure to connect with me on Instagram at emilyaborn. I'd love to hear how this inspired you to take action.